Thank you for joining us for a special feature on Film Bazaar 2025. Today we have Amitoj Singh, writer of the movie Agli Fasal Next Crop, selected for the Screenwriters Lab this year at Film Bazaar, joining us. Amitoj, welcome to this discussion. You come from Farukhabad and studied at FTII. How have those roots and experiences helped shape your storytelling voice?
Yeah, I was born and brought up in Farukhabad. It's a small town somewhere in the central UP belt, and uh, was really inclined towards arts earlier in my life. I wrote poetry. I was very much into debating and co-curriculars at school. So somehow it was a natural progression for me to study literature. And during my college days, I used to do theater. I did a lot of theater back in Delhi at Jamia and along with my friends, and that led me to cinema eventually. So the storytelling at heart that I have known of comes from these places of understanding that I got early on in my life, where I remember once reading my grandfather's book. He was the public relations officer at Golden Temple. And he wrote a small book about his experiences around the Golden Temple during the militancy era and all of that. So yeah, that was an entry point into understanding how stories are told because of my grandfather. And then I eventually went to FTI and I got exposed to way too much cinema and I fell in love with it entirely and I watched more films than I should have probably, which eventually shapes your mind in a manner which is not normative. I mean, that definitely I could say it's very out of lines and out of bounds because you're watching so many films from so many parts of the world, interacting with so many filmmakers in India and outside consistently, entirely, and you're constantly engaging with the form and the format and narrative and the ideas of storytelling. That yeah, eventually it did all bundle up into what I am trying to do now with this film.
What experienced Ugly Fasal? It's such a poetic and layered idea. How did it first take shape?
Yeah, so the origins of the film is a little embedded in grief, and this is a word that you'll see me speak about multiple times over the course of this interview. But yeah, I mean, so it all started with one of my best friends from college. His father passed away during COVID, and I was there near and around him. So he'd gone home, and when he came back, he told me that a part of his family is buried in their mango orchard now because that was the last wish. And then after my father passed away a year later to him, it kind of became like this recurring morbid joke among us, which is that whenever his father's actual soul touches the fruit that is above them, then they might get dreams about their fathers, and that is the origin of the idea of the film itself. Yeah, so it's my grief and the grief of so many of the friends around me who've lost so much during the times of COVID and after. And yeah, somehow my life entirely and the life of the people entirely around me transformed during those few years where we grew from children into adults very quickly, very rudely at that. I mean, the death of a parent is a very rude awakening almost, I suppose. And yeah, so that is the origin of me learning about the fact that it was there. And then, it's Wordsworth used to say that poetry is a spontaneous outflow of powerful emotions recollected in tranquility. So all those spontaneous outflows were done. And then once I think a year had passed after my father had passed away, and I sat down in some tranquility to actually think about what could make sense in all of these things. And then this story emerged of the caretaker of a graveyard who can talk to the dead and for whom mango is a symbol of power almost.
How has your time in the Screenwriters Lab at Film Bazaar experienced or refined the script so far?
It's incredible actually. The fact is, the script was only in my head, and it was only on paper and only with me for a long time. So I was very glad to actually get the script out. And then I'm working with Claire Dobbin, and she's entirely unique perspective on whatever my ideas were with it, and the universality of the emotion that lies very well within the film itself, of grief, of second chances, of longing. But even within them, there is that specific indigenous nature of the way things work in and around the areas I'm writing about, and how to keep the tone correct, how to actually keep the story running, how to create dramatic arcs, how to sustain dramatic arcs. These are she brought forth very potent ideas, and the lab, and especially with the collaboration of my lab mates and other mentors, it's expanded way beyond I had ever thought I'd start with. So yeah, the Screenwriters Lab has been an incredible opportunity for me because it's actually transformed entirely. The script itself and the idea itself has I'm assuming has become far greater than what I thought it could be.
You're also a poet and a lyricist. Does that rhythm of language find its way into your screenwriting process?
Yeah, definitely it does. Actually, we used to talk about this back at FTI. What is the origin point of a film? Everyone has different origin points. Some people get ideas, some people get images, some people draw. I usually get stuck with a rhythm in my head. It's uncannily stuck in my head all the time, and then that emerges into something that eventually becomes an idea for me. And that rhythm is weird because with this as well, like the story I am writing, there is a there were a few lines that got stuck in my head after my father passed away, and I was going home, and I was in grief, but I had these few lines that got stuck in my head, and they're in Hindi, so I'll just say them, and which was मैं नहीं मजबूर किसी के घर आंगन में चूर पड़ी पन्नी हूँ जिसमें धनिया लाना भूल गए हैं पिताश्री, भूल गए हैं वापस आना मंदिर जाकर माथे पर टीका लगवाना नहीं रहे हैं पिताश्री, गए होंगे गंगा तीर पीते होंगे नीरस नीर, आंखें शायद होंगी अब भी बेहद गंभीर. And this is something got stuck in my head, which eventually led me to, somehow make sense of the magic realist world I was trying to create within the film. Yeah, so it does affect a lot actually.
Having worked with Sudhir Mishra, what lessons would the collaboration have shaped your own approach as a filmmaker?
Yeah, so Sudhir sir is an absolute master. I mean, it's absolutely surreal to me that I work with him because I remember there is a our theater at FTI, our classroom theater at FTI is called Renu Saluja New CRT, and Renu ma'am used to be his partner and his wife, and I used to read about her, in which there was an anecdote that she used to help out a lot of FTI students when they were newly in Mumbai, and it was their house. It was Sudhir Sir and Renu ma'am's house where all these people used to crash earlier in the days. And yeah, he's an absolute master of the craft. I've written with him, and I've realized of how tangentially you can go and yet bring back it into a very dramatic emotion, and a very fresh take each time on trying to see the way things are. And yeah, and with Sudhir sir, I've realized you can't prescribe anything. There is no prescription that there is to the form of film or to the art of screenwriting or whatever. I mean, it's always a very innate, organic flow, and it's an absolute joy to watch a master at work. He's been here 40 years. He's done so much for the idea of middle cinema in India itself. I mean, if the existence of films like Dharavi and the existence of I mean, by the time I'm sure we're done with whatever form of middle cinema there is, his line in Dharavi, ये रेगिस्तान का जानवर यहाँ मरने को क्यों आया है, will go up in the
Wow.
echelons as one of the finest lines written in Hindi cinema. Yeah, so I think there is a lot more due. There's a lot more in Sudhir Sar's bag yet. But yeah, he's an absolute master. It's an honor and a pleasure to even be in his presence.
Next, after the lab, do you plan to direct Agli Fasal yourself or collaborate with another filmmaker?
Yeah, so we'll be at the Film Bazaar, and then hopefully I'm hoping to meet some people, interact with few people, see how it goes, because I'm excited to eventually get the film going, and I'm looking to direct. I mean, this will be hopefully my feature debut, and I am definitely sure that I am biting off more than I can chew, but I am more than happy to die trying than not try at all. So yeah, the next process would be to eventually reach lab, meet a few people, see where it goes, see where the film and the ideas take me, and hopefully get something on board in some time. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Amit Jyot. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Same.